Hey guys, welcome to Faz Radio. How's it going, Titan?
Fantastic. Loving that it's Friday. Love Faz Radio.
It's kind of cringy. Okay, so yes, doing pretty good today. Today's Friday, and had something come out today that we'd like to talk about. Today we have something interesting, and this is going to be education time on Faz Radio with Uncle Titan. So we're gonna highlight his screen here. Let's see if I can do this correctly. First thing I need to do is click this button. Do I click this button? I don't know what I'm doing. Click this button, hide. That didn't do anything.
You don't know what you're doing over there, do you?
Nope. Ding! Here we go. Okay, now let's put our logo in the right-hand corner here. Now
we're going to get a soundboard, and I'm going to record one of our special needs folks at work. Every time we screw something up, she comes over with this perfect pitched whine. And she's like, do you idiots know what you're doing?
No.
And we're going to put that on a soundboard.
No. Not be a good idea. Okay. So the White House released a framework that they had actually, President Biden had actually made a executive order for a few months ago. And that executive order basically says, figure out how you want to deal with crypto. And that kind of matters because basically regulation is coming and we need to get an idea of what kind of things are coming and get inside their heads and figure out how they're going to fuck us all over. I mean, how they're going to make things better for everyone.
Well, it depends how deep we dig into this document, because some of the language to me is a little bit scary when it comes to the CBDCs. So I was really looking forward to doing this tonight. I'm excited to talk about that. Oh, and I do need to, before we get into this, I do want to make a shout out to Jack, who I talked to today. He's our loyal FedEx driver, and we had a great conversation. He sounded pretty excited about Faz Radio. Lambasted me for not telling him earlier, and so hopefully he's out there listening tonight.
And also, we're going to be cutting this up a little bit and doing some shorts, some educational shorts, because there's a lot of different points in here that I think people won't want to sit through this and listen to. So you'll probably hear some of this again, just in case you're not paying attention. The TLDR versions.
So this document took me by surprise, and I chatted a little bit today with Faz, and some of the language, it's weird because it in certain areas it narrows the focus down, and in other areas it does the Gary Gensler special, right, where it leaves it so broad that it's going to be difficult. Yeah, it's going to be like difficult for some of this, I think. And we know we've had this discussion before, but they do broad on purpose, right? So they can take whatever interpretation that they want and hopefully be able to apply it. So as we go through this, I think you'll see how it opens up in some spots and really gets pretty tight in others. This document, and when you read it and you kind of internalize it and start thinking about it, my thoughts at least, and you might get the same. My thoughts were, this tells me they're a little bit more scared of anything crypto,
just a little,
than they previously led on to. because and I told Faz one of the big things that stuck out to me was they mention NFTs 3 or 4 times in here. And I found that very interesting because they really haven't done much mentioning or talking about NFTs. But when I saw it like multiple times, I was like, ooh, they are really digging into this. And the spot that really got me on that is when they were talking in the document about the nefarious things that people do with it to prevent money laundering using NFTs. And they specifically call that out. So I went, what do they know that may be going on with this that I haven't heard about yet? So that really piqued my curiosity.
You mean, what are they trying to prevent from happening, which is currently going through the court system?
Well, all right. So I meant specific to the NFTs, though. So there's multiple court cases going on with crypto things. Obviously, Ripple is like the big one. What this document tells me is they're jockeying for position to try and grasp what they're trying to grasp individual areas of crypto and define kind of how they want to approach it. Now, that to me is very presumptuous because they assume, and this is where Faz and I do a lot of arguing, because he is a trusting little soul and I'm not. So the presumption is that they're controlling this, and then they put out this document and say, here's what we're going to allow you to do with it. Whereas I take the other route. I think bullshit on that we're going to do what we want with it. Let's see if you can come in and maybe guide us on a couple of things. So there's like this complete opposite narrative being done. And I find it kind of comical because they don't know what they're doing with crypto. But I also find it just typical government where they are coming in, charging hard, saying, this is the way it's going to be. And they can't really control a lot of crypto. And they make it sound like they can. So that's kind of odd. And I'm doing so much talking, Faz. What are your initial thoughts, like I just kind of gave, about what you read here?
Surprisingly similar to yours. I think they certainly think that they're going. It reads to me like they think they're going to control things a lot more than maybe they really can with crypto. However, let's go back and look at what happened with the internet. When I first heard of the internet in 1993, it was known as this huge packet switching network that would make it so that any computer can talk to any computer, and it's fault tolerant because if a computer went down, then it'd just reroute and go to another computer. Yeah, that was all cool. That was nice. And then the 90s came, and then trunks started appearing. What was a trunk? Why, a trunk was a high-speed arm of the leg of the internet. And so phone companies got in on that because they're like, hey, well, you can have the internet or you could use this trunk. And of course, to use these trunks, you needed an internet service provider. And so basically, it was the telecom companies that kind of took that over pretty quick. And what I see happening with crypto is very similar. So there's crypto. You'll be able to send things to everybody else's wallet. But after a while, it's going to be that if you don't use this system that they put in place, then it's practically not going to happen. And so I see this as an attempt to start. And I see crypto is getting, well, they would certainly like crypto, the whole crypto sphere, to take a backseat to what they want. But this is just the United States, folks. This isn't the rest of the world. Crypto is still going to do what crypto is going to do everywhere else. Some countries are going to completely legalize what the United States unlegalizes, and everybody's going to, just like with the internet, start locking down their borders. If you make a transaction and you are physically in the United States, then you cannot do this or you cannot do that. So that's my happy and cheery reading of this, is that this is a start, and it's what they assume right off the bat.
So do you think that there's a couple ways you could look at that. So do they think they can actually control it and they're just clueless? Do you think they're just asserting that they can because if they make people believe they can hold the power that way? Or do you think they're completely clueless and are just reaching for straws here?
Well, in the real world, the act of assertion is how you control things. You assert something until someone challenges you to prove it or to back down, and governments can certainly, just have litigation over and over again to get what they want after a while. So, yeah, I see them laying out the boundaries. People are starting to claim their territory. The CFTC and the SEC, or the SEC was first at starting to claim their territory. They want to enforce this.
So I also found it mildly interesting that in the very first paragraph, they come out and they talk about.
You might remember. You might want to highlight these things.
I am, yeah. The May crash of a so-called stablecoin and subsequent wave of insolvencies. They're immediately trying to scare the shit out of people.
Well, what you said, what they're saying in that statement is two things. One, it's something that is not legitimate. Two, this non-legitimate thing has totally very large effects that have shown that we need to protect people. And there's an understanding in just that statement, because I was actually mentioning this to my wife in the car earlier today. The very fact that they're pointing out the stablecoin crashes are saying, look, when we regulate anything, and of course it's what we prefer, when we regulate anything, this kind of shit won't happen. So that's number one. Number two is a so-called stablecoin. What the fuck does that even mean? They're taking away from something from you the moment that they're giving it to you. It's like, hey, let's give you a title of like Mr. Cool Person. This so-called Mr. Cool Person that I just named. So no, they're trying to yank away the legitimacy of stablecoins and say that basically you want to use what they have. Of course, the end of this conversation is you'll want to use our CBDC, which is of course monitored heavily.
Well, there's a ton of discussion around that that I'm sure we'll get into when we hit the CBDC section. And we're not going to go line by line. We'll be here for 12 hours, right? But there's a couple of things I did want to pull out, some highlights that at least I found in here. And if you have some too, let me know. I'll highlight that. So what I noticed in scrolling down was this too. This hit me hard because I figured out exactly what they were going to do. And this is something, Faz, that you had been hammering for a very long time here on Faz Radio. They're not going to go after the chains. They're not going to go after the users as much. They're going to go after the developers. And what they're trying to do, it sounds like, is control how these are developed and control what the developers are able to do. Because it's talking here about a clear framework for how to develop. And that was the first where my back of my hair on back of my neck started to tingle, because I'm like, I argued with you on that point. I didn't think they would actually go there, but they are, it sounds like, from this. That's kind of where their pinch point is going to be.
No comment, sir.
So take your accolades there.
I heard you. I heard you hit your mute button. I think you had to take another drag off that.
No, I thought you were going to have a comment on that one, because I didn't think. How do I phrase this? I did not think that all these tokens that came out, right? So I'm going to use raw numbers because I don't remember exacts. So when you drew me into this space, if I remember correctly, there was somewhere around 11,000 tokens. Now there's like 22,000. So it's basically doubled in the last few years. And I thought wholeheartedly, and why I argued with you about it is because I thought these developers are not going to be companies and corporations and people that you can look up on LinkedIn that say they're coding for Solana. And I thought this was going to be a lot of different projects that were going to be Satoshi Jr., who were going to be, as the government originally called them, shadowy developers, right? They were going to develop these decentralized networks where whoever, these teams of developers could just drop stuff on there and we'd be able to access it and we'd be going wild. So that's why I argued with you about, they're not going to go after developers. They're not going to be able to go after developers. I don't know why you think that's the case. We're seeing more companies and people who are forming like Web 2 companies with just like a Web 3 wallet and then calling it Web 3. That's the majority of what I'm seeing. And that's why they're going to go after these developers. And I saw that and I'm like, now I understand what Faz was arguing about.
Well, also think about it this way. If the more onerous regulations you put on, the less individuals are going to be able to add value to the crypto sphere. Only the rich players will be able to add value. So say you had some I don't know, some wallet hosting solution like Trust Wallet or something. But you really just want to have your own personal wallet. They could say the act of holding a wallet or operating a wallet requires a license. Well, then that would basically force you to go to a wallet provider, in which case, which I think lowers the security in one sense. But you'd be forced to go to a wallet provider who would then charge you because they'd say, hey, I got to pay to put all this stuff together. And then, of course, I have to pay for the license. And so the more regulation you have, the larger entities are going to be the only ones that can do all the stuff. Okay, if you're building, that might not be a problem. But if you're everybody else, if you're, for the reason that crypto was invented, if you want to actually go and do these things yourself, like, I don't know, pay your friend with crypto, not going to happen. You're going to have to go through a wallet provider, which of course then would start tracking you, because then you, of course, it's easier to regulate the wallet providers by saying, okay, anybody who sends more than $100, just send us a little note. Let us know who did it. And oh, by the way, all these wallets need to be KYC'd. So bing, bam, zoom. Now they can lean on, all the large entities rather than lean on each individually.
So that's something you and I talked about last night offline. And I truly think that the communities will come up with a way to have these wallets be outside of the purview and the snooping, and have them open source and not be able to be infiltrated or regulated. And I was hoping for more of that. And it seems like the money grab is what's driving this Web 2 fake Web 3 technology thing. The document here, as it comes down, we have again the negativity coming out and regulation by enforcement, which is what Gensler just loves to do, right? Redoubling the efforts to monitor consumer complaints and enforce against unfair, deceptive, or abusive practices. They're making that point again to scare people and say, ooh, this scary space, and there's so much fraud and you can't trust anybody, but daddy government's here. We're going to pat you on your head. We're going to give you a big bear hug and protect you.
To be fair, that's not wrong. There's I'm not going to try and defend everything of what they're saying, but this is a new spot, and new spaces technically do take advantage of people left and right for the same reason that old people get swindled by swindlers. A lot of people don't know what's going on, and a lot of people need an easy. They at the very least need some alternatives, some managed alternatives to where they don't have to worry about how crypto works. I'm fine with the managed alternatives. I'm not fine with the managed alternatives are the only way.
So they immediately kind of go into this Fed now. All right, and Fed now, and we could go down a rabbit hole on this like there's no tomorrow, because a lot of people, Faz, you were one that said this too. The big reason that Ripple's case has been going on for 18 months is a stalling tactic, right? Buying the Federal Reserve time to kick out this Fed Now program. I'm not saying I'm an expert on this in any means. I did some poking around on this Fed Now. And all it is really is it's like a credit card solution. There's still a slow back end to it. All they've really done is put a front end that lets the user think that it's instant. There's still like a T+3 back end. So it doesn't really change much, at least what they've released so far. I don't know, maybe because now they have the ETH network they can work with, or I think there was mention of Cardano network at one point being the one that they were looking at in some of those documents. They could use that as rails, absolutely. But I think they're probably going to stick with traditional finance, but find a way to make it faster. So the next one that I popped into, so here I found this interesting too. So the Treasury will work with financial institutions to bolster capacity and identify vulnerabilities. So what they're basically saying here is they're going to deploy some very, very advanced and very, very intrusive monitoring devices on pretty much any network that they can find a way to monitor, right? So you have your blockchain explorers, you have APIs that can be used. They're going to be monitoring that. So again, here's the spooky cloud hanging over, Big Brother's watching. And they're saying the Treasury Department's going to head this up. So this is where they start allocating things out, right? They haven't gotten to the point where they're defining securities or who's going to decide what's where, when, and how. But now they're kind of pointing and saying, you know what? We feel that the Treasury Department should be handling this part of it. And I find it odd that they want Treasury to do that. You would assume that like Homeland Security or even a different ATF, for all we know, would be monitoring that. I think ATF is the one that was involved with the Albright, right? With what was that Ross did? What was the name of that?
Oh, I don't know.
The place where you go and you did all the exchanging, the guy that got thrown in prison and forgotten about for Silk Road. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Silk Road. So this is kind of, I think, what they're going to be on the lookout for with that. So here we go back into, they talk about responsible innovation, and this hits on that development side as well. So they're trying to talk with these technology companies to be able to control what technology is being developed. And if something is developed that they might want to monitor a little bit closer, this tells me this is where they're going to want to put a halt to it and say, hey, you can't do that unless you put this code in there that allows us to monitor that, which I have big problems with, right? it talks about, oh, the U.S. government has played a critical role in priming responsible private sector innovation. Basically, they're saying we're going to control this. And that to me is a big problem. This is new, the Office of Science and Technology. So I think that whoever's running that was probably somebody's cousin's brother's best friend's roommate, and they get
Actually, that office was closed by Trump in the last administration.
Yeah, they got the friend hookup to get that job so they could say they were a secretary of something. Well, all of a sudden this gets thrown in there. And how is this? Because there's not a lot of information on it because, you mentioned Trump closed it. We don't know even what they're going to do or how they're going to do it, which makes it a little bit more difficult to watch out for something that might stifle the innovation before we do. I'm doing a lot of talking. Feel free to jump in here, Faz, because I'll just motherfuck the government all night long if you let me. This stuff pisses me off, right? Because to me, the government should be the other way around, right? They should be saying, oh, hey, that's really cool technology. We could probably put this to good use. How can you help us help you with that?
Well,
right?
my thought is that the government should look to encourage this kind of stuff, but instead they are scared. See, in the 90s, the government was all about helping the internet take off. They did have the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which actually got right in the middle of that and slowed down some development with the internet. But they quickly passed laws to say, well, the internet is exempt from taxes for a long time because we want to encourage it and get it going. Unfortunately, the government these days isn't on the same page with itself, and the government cannot agree with itself whether crypto is good or bad. And so a lot of them are saying it's bad, some are saying it's good, and then the crypto lobby, of course, seems to think it's good as well. But the government doesn't want people to think that it's not in charge, so it's not gonna bend to that stuff. So it's just taking this, trying to regulate this as if it were a technology of its very own. Well, if it were like the internet and saying, well, we got to make sure that everybody toes the line. But again, that's just going to be in this country. Okay, sure, you're going to do this, but then there's going to be this economy in other countries that is going to continue to run. So they're going to have to then go to the what's that? They're going to then have to go to all the other countries and convince them to get all on the same page. So imagine a year or two from now saying, well, we're going to cancel this trade agreement with Canada unless Canada gets on page with our crypto rules. Trust me, that's coming. Quote me.
Right. Well, okay. So I'm not sure that'll happen. And I scrolled down to it because that was the next point I was going to bring up. We're going to message to the rest of the world, and we're going to continue to expand leadership roles, okay, with other countries. Let's XRP, right, in 99 other countries is considered a currency and nobody's arguing. Whereas here, they're trying to say it's a security. I don't think these other countries are going to give a rat's ass, quite honestly. They're going to be like, you know what? You go do what you want to do. We're doing things our way. We're embracing this. We're going to run with this technology. And I think that's starting to scare them a little bit as well. Because I don't think they're going to get the buy-in and the consensus that they think they're going to get from the rest of the world. Maybe Canada, maybe the UK. The UK is really scared of this too. So I think they might kind of jump on that bandwagon. But the rest of the world is just running with this. And I don't think they have the influence that they once had when it comes to that. So in the chat, a couple of people had made comments. One of them, we're going to do a show on that here shortly. That's on my list of proposals that I wanted to throw to Faz. is the fake Web3 stuff where it's Web2 acting as Web3. That's a huge topic right now with a lot of these projects coming out, and the centralization versus the decentralization. I definitely want to hit that. There is no doubt about that. We're trying to stay on topic here, so I'm going to focus back on here. Maybe if we have time at the end, we can circle back to some of that stuff. But we're back to the fighting illicit finance stuff, and they're talking about the criminal activity. Blockchain is the worst place for criminals to be. All right. Everything now, there might not be an identity traced to an address. However, there is a footprint of where all the money goes. And if someone's house does get seized and somebody leaves ClearNet things on their computer, they're going to be able to link addresses pretty quickly. They're good at that. So it is the last place criminals want to be, is on some kind of digital rail like this that has an immutable blockchain that'll track everything. That scary part has to go away. We're in an age now where these blockchains are never going to lie. And to think that criminal activity is going to happen there, you're absolutely crazy. That happens in cash. That's a pallet wrapped up with cash that's getting sent. There was some weird fact that like 80% of the dollar bills, US dollar bills, had traces of cocaine on it, right? Because it all flows through the drug world. They don't care about the cash, but suddenly they care about crypto. It's way better for them to keep operating in cash. This was another big topic. The president will evaluate whether to call upon Congress to amend the Bank Secrecy Act. Okay, I can go on for days about this. So, regardless of what president you have, the president doesn't get to just evaluate things and make decisions like that to amend. Now, he says call upon Congress. We know that's all a bunch of bullshit, because if the Congress is the same party as the president, the odds of it going through are fairly high, right? So this is starting to get into that area where they can come up with pretty much any rules for being a money transmitter, right? And Faz and I probably did 3 shows on this about Gala and who is a money transmitter. Is a node a money transmitter? Is Gala moving tokens from their distribution wallet into a node for distribution? Is that a money transmitter? Is sending a certain amount of crypto over the crypto rails, is that being a money transmitter? And if those laws are modified and broadened and the scope of it is not clearly defined, there's the excuse that they need to try and stop whatever it is that they want to stop for whatever reason. They're trying to make them more broad on purpose. Where was my next point down here? So now we get into these CBDCs. Faz, you have a great way of explaining a CBDC. Would you share with our loyal listeners what a CBDC is?
So a CBDC is where the U.S. government or any government would like you to use their digital currency for transactions, for like legal tender. China has done this already. For example, instead of using the paper yuan, you just use their digital yuan. The only difference is you'd use the digital yuan, say, with your phone. So if you're going to pay for something, you just scan a barcode on a product and then you can buy it. That's pretty nice and easy, isn't it? However, what if you have a low social score in China? Then all of a sudden you can't buy those products, or maybe you're not allowed to buy certain products because I don't know reasons. So or maybe you did something wrong. Maybe you violated some sort of curfew or something, and they wouldn't allow you to buy something in specific stores. CBDCs are basically just centralized, federal controlled dollars. But then again, that's what the dollar is. However, what we like about the dollar is its implementation, which is if I have a dollar in my hand, I can go pay anyone for anything. Doesn't matter if it's legal or not. I have the freedom to do that. The federal government has a little bit of a hard time with that because I don't know if I were to pay Titan here for I don't know services rendered. If those services rendered was somehow illegal, then they would have to go trace down. They have to do a lot of work to find out what's going on. Not so with a CBDC. What wallet did it come from? Where did it go to? What did it pay for? That's it. So it makes their enforcement a lot easier, and they would much rather you use that than crypto. Now, crypto, of course, you could obfuscate what you're doing, but once you start obfuscating, then they're going to have a problem with that because I know that. So there's this right to privacy in the United States that we all think that we have, but you'll start finding that even when spending regular dollars, if you don't let the federal government know what you're doing with those dollars, you actually don't have the right to privacy. It'll trump the right to privacy. So they're just, it's a lot easier to enforce a lot of laws, a lot of rules, if you just have a central bank digital currency.
I love it because I got schooled last night with a much longer version of that while we were there. And to add one quick statement to what you said, the monitoring, folks, with the CBDC is in real time. It isn't something that they would find out like 6 months later after doing research. They can put flags on real-time transactions. But here's the super scary part, right? Here's where the conspiracy titan comes out. Let's think about
That's the way to get me talking.
This statement right here. If you don't read anything else in this document, this partial sentence even right here is why you should be calling your congressmen, your senators, anybody who will listen to you, and not let this happen. This statement, advanced financial inclusion, protecting national security, right? So if you, for instance, don't comply with whatever government mandate they decide to put out, they can freeze your money. Lock it instantly, no matter where it is. You can't move your money.
You can programmatically freeze it, actually. So say the moment, for example, say you access Tornado Cash. The instant it happens, they're gonna want to stop that. So they can freeze your wallet or freeze. I mean, they could send something to Coinbase and have it frozen immediately. With a central bank digital currency, it would be part of the protocol. So if you go to do that, the very act of hitting a sanctioned entity, which there may be an entire list of, the moment that you do it, even if by accident or through ignorance, bam, you're locked. So that's kind of a problem.
Well, and it is.
They're not going to have a problem with that. They're going to be fine with that because it will have prevented all sorts of bad things. It would have prevented, well, just bad things.
Well, and here we go, right? So, of course, Titan is going to take it to the extreme, and I don't like talking about myself in the third person normally, but
you're ready to run for office.
Well, yeah, the next statement: respect human rights. All right. So this, I'm not going to go far down this Faz, but I think this is important. We have movements in this country that believe certain things, and if you are on the wrong side of whatever social issue there is, whether it's the issue of transgender or abortion or anything else, and you're on the wrong side of what they believe is the right side, that can come out. and they can freeze your money for not respecting human rights. If you make a Facebook post that disparages whatever, they can use that and say you're not respecting human rights. Align with democratic
Well, what would happen?
values
What
is
would
the same.
happen? What would actually happen is you would be blocked at first. So you'd probably be blocked via Facebook's existing mechanisms. And then you have to go appeal that to Facebook. So whatever you would do that would get blocked, there'd be an appeal process. That's the problem. Is if you stumble upon something, hopefully you didn't fuck up too much because then everything's locked. And then you'd have to appeal it to start back up again. Well, that's okay. Say
We know
I
how
don't know.
slow the government is.
Well, I'm just saying. I'm thinking of an example. Say you bought something you shouldn't have at a store, and they lock your ability to purchase things. Then you might be okay. Fine, you couldn't buy it at the store. Now you're going to drive home, but you need gas. Can't drive home because can't get gas because your account has been locked. I see. So once you're locked out, you can't do things like buy food and other things. Now, of course, I'm sure that they could write some smart contracts saying you can still buy things at grocery stores. But if you're doing something illegal like that, they're going to want to talk to you. So if they see you attempting to purchase something at a grocery store, then they could send the police to you that much quicker and so on. It becomes this cascade of automatic things that becomes really incumbent upon you to resolve rather than them to get right. Because they'll say that you can always get it undone later. Okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's real time, man. You go to that 7-Eleven and get yourself a honey bun. The police are on their way. They're going to tie that into it. Absolutely.
If you steal yourself a honey bun, but what I'm getting at is,
well, if they're looking for you, they know who you are with your wallet. If you spend a dime, and if there is no such thing as cash and it's all CBDCs, you can't buy anything without being instantly pegged like in the movies, right? On a screen.
So I think that they would probably try to make it more humane than that, but even the most nice, humane way of doing it is going to be a real fucking pain in the ass for you, because your life is going to get disrupted immediately when it just doesn't need to be. Honestly, they're going to find out that they're not going to have the resources for as much enforcement as a CBDC might enable. So they'll have to pick and choose their crimes to go enforce right away. But they can certainly, until they get people to you, they can certainly lock your ass out. Be like, whoa, he transferred over $10,000. Lock that shit up until we figure out what's going on. And then, 3 weeks later, you get unlocked and they're going, oh, my bad. Sorry. What the fuck are you supposed to live on until then? So I assume that that's going to happen. And then people are going to be horribly inconvenienced. And then after a while, they'll say, okay. We'll allow trips to the grocery store and trips to the gas station and stuff like that. But you still have the same problem. Anything that falls outside of that becomes necessary, you don't have to do. And so maybe, I don't know, give it about 10 years to completely suss out and get a lot easier. Or you can just let people have the freedom that they're guaranteed with the U.S. Constitution.
Align with democratic values. Do you know how broad that is and how that could be abused very easily?
Oh, I think it can change depending upon the administration that's in office.
Absolutely.
We like abortion. We hate abortion. Depending on the weekday, year, month, state that you're in, did you pay for an abortion? Holy fucking shit, Batman. Now you're in a world of hurt. And we're just enforcing the law. So, okay, pick your poison. It's, I picked a political hot button issue to just prove a point. And of course, people can easily get on one side of that or another. How about one that's not a political hot button? What about doing something that's perfectly legal now, but some people feel should be illegal? All you need is a governor of a U.S. state, to not like some idea, pass a law, and then all of a sudden anyone coming into that state is going to fall into that trap. You know how you'd speed traps on highways right now? Well, you can have all sorts of traps like this when you go into a state and buy something wrong. Hell, it can be a significant source of income for a state to hit people on. Yeah, you can't buy weed over here. We saw that you just made a weed purchase, so we're gonna fine you. So we'll just take that money out of your account, or you can apply to get it back, but we'll freeze your account. I mean, just all sorts of bullshit.
And you have a whole I thought I had to sneeze, it was just a cough. You have a whole different outside view on that as well, because not only do you have the monitoring, not only do you have all that, you're going to have people that are going to say, oh, but Titan, they wouldn't do that. The government's not inherently bad. They just want what's best for everybody.
Okay. That's a straw man. That's unrealistic, and I really don't like it when people start saying stuff like that, because it's going to happen. The question is how. It's when you're doing that, you're setting up a quote reasonable response to an unreasonable question. That's called a straw man fallacy.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that think that way. There really is. Nothing, you tend to fall on that, oh, they're not nefarious kind of thing. Yeah, I'll throw like these wild conspiracy things out at Faz, and we'll have these big long discussions about different things, and he likes to fall on the, well, give people the benefit of the doubt first, and then if there's enough evidence, then we'll convict them.
That's a bit of a misstatement. I like to cite evidence because it is literally part of our legal system. You cannot make someone suffer a consequence unless there's evidence for them doing something. Now, of course, there's some a relaxed form of that, or there's some exceptions for if a policeman suspects you doing something wrong, they can hold you until they find out what's going wrong. But if they enforce a law on you improperly, then it does kind of come back at them. Now, again, I think you're using the straw man even with me, because when I have said something like people mean well, context really matters. As far as the government, I would say they're less nefarious and more devious. You have people on both sides of the U.S. political aisle that have their plans. Their plans are to shape society the way they want to see it. They're not nefarious in the way that they're seeing things to be done. The Democrats want things a certain way. The Republicans want things a certain way. However, you look to the other side, that person sees them as, I just want to torpedo that. Now, yes, there is actually a number of bullshit, nefarious things that go on, but when you're talking about regulation, in my opinion, I think that they're actually trying to do something right. It's just not going to work. It's just short-sighted or stupid. So there's a difference.
Yeah. I tend to go the other direction. I look for the evidence to make it so. Evidence is interpretive.
It is easiest to find a correlation. You can correlate anything.
No, so everything's subject to interpretation. You've seen the meme that's out there where it's two people standing about 3 feet apart, and on the floor in front of them is the number 96, right? One person sees the number 69, the other person sees the number 96. The fact is there, the evidence is there, they can both point to it, and they're both right. So evidence is subjective as well, and that right there is what a lot of people fail to understand, is interpretation does play a huge, and perception. I slam perception constantly. That is what the crux of evidence is perception.
when you speak about scientific method, that 69 example that you gave is meaningless. The scientific method would simply establish through other means what is what. The problem is when you have two different people using arbitrary sets of evidence to determine a truth. That's when you have a problem. When people don't agree upon what is right, you'll never find out what is right. So that's what the scientific method does. That's why they ask you when you get sued, when you're in the court, they're like, "Do you agree that this is true? Yes. Do you agree that this is true? Yes. Do you agree that this is true? Yes. Okay. Then therefore, because of your three yeses, how can this be true?" Then you go, "I'd like to claim the fifth. You've just switched screens, and now we can see your browser tabs. Oh, we can see your Discord. Do you want to? Are you done showing things? We see your desktop. Are you done? I don't think we can hear you, Mr. Titan.
That's where we do the family vacations. That's Fripp Island.
Okay.
So we went off on a tangent. No, well, we went off kind of on a tangent because the document's done. So
you put the Faz Radio thing back up here. I'll show my technical difficulties one first.
Wait, do I have to stop sharing?
Yeah,
do I have to do that? How do I do that? Where am I?
Well, I could boot your ass out. Oh no, go ahead, stop sharing. It should be at the top of your screen, I think.
Oh, there we go. Stop.
There you go.
Continue. All right. Where was I going?
Something about Faz had an excellent point. You couldn't say anything about it, so you literally ended the entire presentation. Which, thank you.
Oh yeah, we were at we were at the end there. So in the pursuit of truth, there's going to always be people who will point to the same evidence and get a different interpretation of it. We went through this document. For once, we actually pretty much agreed on a lot of it with different takes. But this is something that's going to be really important. And I'm normally not a political person anymore. When I was younger, I was like all into politics and I was deep into it. And then you ruined that for me when you
woohoo
showed me the way.
They're all bad. That's TLDR.
Yeah, we've known each other for 30 years. Those who have followed us know that. But it was probably 2007, 2008. He told me to watch a video. And it totally changed my life. I mean, took it upside down, dumped it on the floor, and reorganized it. And here we are.
For the record, I don't agree with a lot of that video, which I think I specified at the time. However, it did indicate certain truths. I don't want to suggest that video right now because it's
no. But as we go forward with, I don't even know if you'd call it regulation, enforcement, guidance, whatever's coming from the government, the odds of it being good for us, good for companies, good for innovation, good for technology, good for adoption are very, very low.
Okay.
Right.
Wait. Government isn't all bad. A government has a pretty good job laid out that it can do. For example, and I like to use the NASA example because it's a great example. So back in the past, back in the 40s and 50s, we were wanting to get into space because we felt that whoever got into space would be leading in the world and stuff like that. So there was a big space race that started up, and there wasn't a lot of people that had enough money to do that kind of stuff, to just build rockets and go to space. All rocket building before then was pretty low end stuff. And so the government decided to throw its weight behind it, and they created NASA. Well, they did some other things, then they created NASA. But the whole purpose is NASA was a great way for the government to get in something and start developing a bunch of tools that then could eventually be farmed out to people. And they discovered that, hey, if we just taxed people for NASA, then NASA would figure out all these things, and all these technologies it brought would benefit people. Okay, that worked for a while until the rest of the world started being able to catch up on being able to build rockets. Now NASA kind of has lost its mandate a little bit because now there you have like Amazon and Elon Musk and people that can build rockets. So I certainly see um, government as good for priming the pump on certain things. Problem with that is, can we all agree on those certain things? No, we can't. So, in one sense, government is great. In another sense, it sucks because if they want to prime the pump on something that you completely, totally disagree with, it's going to suck. Also, markets. When the government starts getting behind something, if the government, if the government has a huge military industrial complex, if it decides to get behind anything, I don't know, video games, if the government got behind video games, the video game market would just go through the roof. Everybody who is involved with video games would make just billions of dollars. It'd be the best thing in the world. So it's certainly, and the government uses that. They know that they have an effect on the economy. All they need to do is point the way, and they'll put all their money after it, and then it will happen. Great. So now that they're doing this, that they're getting choosy and picky about what they put their money behind, and everything that they're doing is very political, and that's when it bogs down into just foolishness. You have bridges being built to the middle of nowhere because it did have a point until it didn't, or maybe somebody retaliated. Maybe it was going to be built towards somewhere, but then that somewhere someone was able to remove the somewhere, but not the bridge. So then it makes everybody look like idiots. So there's a lot of politics with government. Government has a point, but I don't believe that it just makes everything worse. That's unrealistic.
I don't think it's unrealistic. So again, they're going to try and insert themselves in between the innovation and the end product.
Okay.
Or they're going to regulate it.
I agree.
They're going to regulate it to death. And my statement is the odds of that being something that's going to be innovative and good for people is going to be very low because they're going to stick their fingers in there and fuck it all up before it ends up being a product, right?
It'll be innovative, but it will be innovated through them. They'll say, we approved of this innovation. And every country does this. This is not just the United States. Don't act like your country allows all this shit. Come on. No, they get in the middle of everything. You start having a ton of money going toward, I don't know, trash can lids. There will be a Department of Trash Can Lid regulation. Guaranteed.
Well, all right. So we have to. I have to get a little bit political in order to illustrate my point.
Then you must talk up the other side as well.
Well, okay. Well, no, it's not like that. So you'll understand in a minute, right? So we have this situation in the world right now where the Russian oil and Russian energy is being sold in denominations that are not US dollars anymore. And it's becoming larger and larger amounts. They're using the yuan, they're using India rupees, they're using all these other things. And now suddenly, they're starting to use crypto as well. And these nations, I just saw it, I want to say Wednesday, maybe Thursday. I'll pull up the article. It's got to be in my history.
Well, let me.
Let me finish my thought and then throw in, because I got to refill my drink anyway. But my point is that this, as things escalate in the world like this, and as these transactions are starting to change away from the US dollar, you have the US government wanting to put out a CBDC that's inherently, from what we're reading already, a terrible idea. And these other countries are now open to paying for oil, and the Middle East is accepting alternative payments. Russia's accepting alternative payments. China's accepting alternative payments, not the US dollar. So, tying this all back together, you have this crypto space where innovation and development for things like international border payments, your XRP, your any replacement that you use for cross-border payments or government or business or any kind of payment is not going to be in US dollars anymore. It goes into crypto. And if the US is going to stifle that and try and control that, they are going to fall so far behind that it's going to put us in a position where we're not going to be able to compete anymore.
Okay.
And that is huge.
Okay, you've stacked a lot of stuff to impact, so why don't you go get your drink and you can listen to Uncle Faz school your ass.
All right, I'll keep my headphones on and see if you can
I'll leave a big
articulate
blank space when you're
something on
supposed to
that.
speak again. Make it 30 seconds. All right. Look, everyone wants to put out a CBDC. This is not a new concept. It's a way to make sure that you can tell what your population is doing. Every country is going to have its own preferences about how they want their people to spend money. I don't like that as even a concept, because there's a level of control over every single transaction that we've never had before, and they're literally using crypto as the reason for it. And see, that's another thing. Crypto, in suggesting, when crypto first came out, in suggesting that people could have the ultimate privacy, the reaction by many people in the world, many countries in the world, is the complete opposite of ultimate privacy. It's to strongly, even more strongly, trumpet the concept that every transaction must be counted and every transaction must be kept track of. As far as Ukraine, because again, you had this big giant point sandwich here. The Ukraine war, well, I didn't say as far as Ukraine, but Ukraine is a part here. So the Ukraine war has altered payment flows because the United States and a lot of the world have drawn a line in the sand over Ukraine. They said, hey, you just can't go and knock over another country. A lot of people like that idea. However, China and Russia seem to be against. Well, Russia is completely against that idea. They figure that Ukraine was part of them. It's okay if they do that. China is actually on the U.S. side of that. They think that what their business is their business, but then they're strangely quiet over the situation. Why? Because they actually recognize that with the entire world cutting off Russia, there's an opportunity to where if they trade with Russia, they can get all the benefits. Great. That's Russia's all for that. And in fact, it's I'm sure what Russia is saying is, hey, look, if the United States can cut us off, the rest of the world can cut us off, we need to have an alternate payment structure out there because we might piss off the United States in the future. So it's not really about Ukraine. It's about the fact that they're using it for the first time here and they could fuck you over next. That's what that's what Russia is saying to China, in my opinion. The crypto space is being used as a political tool. You see, Russia used to be against crypto. They before Ukraine, they were like, crypto is bad. We want to keep that stuff from going around our purview. We want to track all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, what do you know? They're all for crypto. They're all for crypto because they have no other fucking way to make money. So they do have some alternate payment flows that they can do through China. I forgot the name of China's version of Swift, but China has one. And so they're working together to build that up and probably get some other people in on it. Maybe they can get North Korea in on it. But whatever the case is, Russia used to be against crypto, and now they're using it as a political tool. Oh, I can hear you getting back in your chair. They're using it as a political tool to get what they want. So the very act of crypto, the very act of crypto making it possible for people to do things easier, people are using that as FUD, as fear, uncertainty, and doubt, so that they could be watched and helped and guarded by the nanny state. So I'm a unique animal because I'm fine with the government controlling some things. I'm fine if they want to do NASA and jumpstart the economy with it. Prime the pump. I'm all for them priming new technologies, but then I want the government to get out of it. Okay, it's like, you've done your job. But that's not how any government works. Governments start realizing, wait a minute, we have a lot of influence here because we can get all these astronauts going. We can get entire parts of the economy going with this. So they don't want to give up that control. The same thing with Russia
Well,
and crypto. They want to take that control.
if they're involved in it, that's great. If they want to be a part of it, that's great. But controlling it, if it's not illegal, is complete bullshit.
Russia wants to control crypto. Period. They've got to get in on it first, and the United States wants to control crypto. This is one of the new places. It's one of the new Cold War areas. The United States wants to control crypto quickly before crypto controls them. People, they just don't seem to realize that crypto started without them and is continuing without them. So they're going to have to play a lot of catch up to rein in United States citizens, to get them away from crypto, or at least far enough away to where they have to approve of them. You can use crypto as long as you have a license, or as long as you use a provider. You may speak now.
Man, I got you fired up. I love it. You were passionate there. So
yeah, you got to go downstairs. You got to make yourself a drink, talk with the wife for a little bit, let the dogs out.
Well, I figured that would set you off a little bit. So I'm like, yeah, I'm out of a drink. I can let him ramble. He'll go forever. So I really think that we have the ability now. We've grown as a population. We've grown as a nation to be able to do what it is that we do and not have to rely on a government or a regulation body or anything for a lot of this. Now, you make a good point when you say there's certain aspects of investor protection that's needed, but you have things like Bitcoin and just straight ETH, not like all the little itty bitties that, or as Saifedean puts it, ETH is the mother coin that all the shit coins are shit out of. You have all of those out there, and a lot of them are straight up complete crap, right? But ETH and Bitcoin and a lot of these other chains have done just fine without regulation. VET is one. Tron is one. They're functioning just fine without anybody regulating anything. That's why I'm against the power grab and the way that they're trying to just get their fingers in there and stifle what people are doing.
It reminds me, actually, the United States coming in at this late stage reminds me a lot of Microsoft getting into gaming with the Xbox. The PlayStation had come in the mid-90s, and they had kind of taken over. They had taken the mantle away from Atari, and PlayStation and Nintendo. Sorry, Nintendo took it away from Atari, and PlayStation took it away from Nintendo. And then Microsoft wanted to get in on the deal and like, hey, we want to be a gaming powerhouse. Well, they couldn't compete. So what they started doing was well, first of all, they made an Xbox division, and then it was funded at a loss. And it continued to be funded at a loss for like 10, 15 years. I think it might even still be funded at a loss. The whole point is they put all of their resources in, they made it a loss leader so that they could start owning the space. And I think the US government is going to be doing things like that. They're going to come into the space, and then they're going to start encouraging you away from it. Be like, well, you could just use a CBDC, which can go a lot faster and do all. No, that's like the US government saying that they can go faster than the Android operating system. Any government coin, in my opinion, is going to be slower than a private coin. I'm trying to think anything government that's faster than the private. That's better, faster than the.
Like I
private.
said, it from what I've read, and I'm not by any means an expert on this, right? But I've read 4 or 5 articles on this FedNow, and it's all front end. It's all an illusion on the front end that it's instant, and there's still a huge lag in final settlement, right? It's kind of like the credit card. Right. It's exactly like it. You go to the store, swipe your credit card, boom, you think the money's gone, it's settled, you get your receipt, you walk out. Behind the scenes, all that stuff takes place. All it is an illusion, is what this Fed now is creating. Right. And I hope people and corporations and governments around the world are able to see that, but they're going to market the shit out of it, that it's just as fast as XRP, just as fast as Bitcoin, but it's not, and it's not final, and it's not instant. That drives me crazy.
Right. So anyway, I do need to wrap this up because I'm being asked to. I'm hungry. First of all, I did not get to eat my meal during this, and people here at my house are asking to speak to me. So it's been over an hour, and I think we've given people a lot to digest. And like we threatened, hopefully we can split this up into some shorts to remind people during the week.
Oh, absolutely. I'll get on that right away. OB wants to come on to Faz Radio when we do the Web 2, Web 3, Web 2.5 show, which I'm hoping we can get to in the next couple of weeks. We have a couple other topics coming up, but we can definitely pop that in there because that's a huge discussion, and especially with a lot of us are here from Gala Games. We're enthusiasts there. They're talking about, they've been teasing their Web3 wallet and the integration with like MetaMask or Ledger and all that kind of stuff. So I am really, really looking forward to having that discussion.
Great. All right. So thank you guys very much for joining. This has been very enjoyable for us. Hopefully it will be enjoyable for you.
Thanks for another wonderful Friday night.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.